Well, yeah, this will be um, part 3B. It will be a shorter video, continuing with the concentration. I had to take about a minute to remember what it is that I wanted to say about concentration. So I mentioned that I spent 5, 6 years writing just about every day. I probably took less than 5 days off during those 5, 6 years, and I wrote anywhere from 2 to 5 hours a day. And it wasn't like writing journals or writing emails. It was writing things that I, with the intent of publishing. And a lot of the days was spent rewriting, because my writing I have to rewrite so many times. But um, but anyway, back in 2022, I caught COVID, and on the day I got COVID, uh, I stopped writing, and I've never truly gone back to writing. Since then, I've had maybe 5 days, just scattered days, when I've written with that same quality of mind. My mathematical abilities have also changed, worsened, basically. And but I remember about a week. It took me about a week and a half to get over the COVID, and I had this feeling like something's different about my mind. And when I tried to sit, there was nothing there. When I'm used to there being an overflow of ideas, there's just nothing there. And I thought, yeah, I don't think anything's going to be here for a while. And month after month passed, and I could just tell. But here's the thing: I never really was particularly upset about that. Partly because of my own training, I think, that understood that everything is impermanent. And I thought, oh, that was 5, 6 years. That was a good run. I got to live out my dream of being a writer, and maybe it's over. And if it's over, that's probably for the best. And so far, it's been almost 3 full years, because it was August of 2022. And by the way, I've noticed that if I drink like maybe 4 or 5 cups of coffee, I can write. But I'm not going to do that to myself. I like to drink like maybe 1 cup of coffee, and that's about it. And so it's not worth it to write for that reason. But the other thought that I had was this: that I understood that, well, actually, it's not another thought. Uh, Before the pandemic, I was in Bali. And when I was there, I met a foreigner. He was from Japan, but his English was quite good. And so even though I could tell his Japanese was likely better, he wanted to speak English with me for some reason. So we would talk. And I remember one time telling him, every morning I spend many hours writing. And I said something like, as long as I get to write every day, I'm happy. Again, it relates to the idea that I'm concentrated, I feel like I'm doing something that I'm supposed to be doing, and there's that joy, and I feel happy I could go for the rest of the day. But his reaction was interesting. He said something like, I'm sorry to hear that. And I thought, you motherfucker, like, you have no idea what's wrong with you. It was kind of like my reaction. I didn't say that. I just thought, huh? I just said, huh? And he didn't really say anything, but in my mind, I was like, fucking, like, you have no idea what it's like to be a writer or an artist, was kind of my thought. But that conversation always stayed with me in the way that like a little thorn stays in the side, right? Or in the finger, whatever. And, uh, and so when I got that COVID and I stopped writing, I thought of that conversation almost immediately. And I thought, oh, he was probably right, that I had somehow convinced myself that I had to do a particular activity in order to be happy. And I think it's easy to fall into that kind of a trap. I have to play tennis to be happy. I have to do mathematics in order to be happy. I have to, I don't know, run a business in order to be happy. I have to run every day in order to be happy. It's easy to fall into a trap, what I'm currently now calling a trap, of focusing on the form without looking at the interior structure of the experience. And the interior structure of the experience, as I've sort of outlined in the last video, I believe, is that the mind is concentrated in those activities. And what I've been thinking about a lot in the past 3 years and trying to implement more and more in different ways is how to enter that state of mind without an attachment to a particular activity? And the answer seems to be simply to have a mind that's present and concentrated. In other words, to have a mind that's inclined in a meditative, that's inclined toward meditation. Yeah, so whether one's eating, sitting, uh, walking, laying down, one can bring one's mind into the moment or follow the breath or the sensation in the body or whatever it may be, whatever meditative method happens, then there's that concentrated quality and the same joys there. I would say that the joy that I experienced when I got COVID, actually, I remember saying like a couple of weeks into it, I can't write, but I seem a little bit happier. And I would say it's the same thing to this day. I see myself as a little bit happier than I was before I got COVID, and I haven't written much. And and what's been interesting is that so I've been focused on and looking for a way to sort of free myself of particular forms of behavior or actions and try to just focus on the quality of mind that each of those past activities helped to cultivate in my mind. And what's been interesting is lately I've been getting back into tennis. And maybe one day I'll get back into writing, but it'll be a different relationship to tennis or to writing. I won't look at tennis as, oh, I need to play tennis in order to be happy. I need to write in order to be happy. I need to do mathematics in order to be happy. It'll just be, I just play tennis. I just write occasionally, or I'm making this video. Right? So I'm suggesting that it's not the action. The action is just the outer trapping or the appearance, the form of things. But the quality of mind is that it's the mind that's more concentrated. And for people who have studied meditation, at least in the Eastern tradition, there's said to be two main forms or branches of meditation, and they're referred to as mindfulness and concentration. Now, most forms of meditation, in my view, combine them, but lean more heavily in one direction or the other. So mindfulness might be like, I'm just going to be aware of the sensations in my body. So I'll do body scans and I'll spend the whole 30 minutes or an hour of meditation sort of being aware of what's happening in the moment. So being mindful. Concentrated meditation is being focused. So for example, one could light a candle and focus one's attention on the flame. And every time one's mind or sight wanders, one brings one's vision and mind back to the flame. Or one can use a phrase or a set of phrases like, may such and such be happy, may they be well, may they have peace, may they be safe. And so those four phrases become like the flame that one concentrates one's mind on, and one repeats that over. So like in the Christian tradition, they might have a prayer, right? The Jesus prayer, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Lord Jesus Christ, right? That's a prayer that was taught to me a long time ago. I don't really do it, but I'm aware of the prayer. And so if one concentrates on that prayer and the meaning of the prayer over and over and over for, let's say, 30 minutes to an hour with no break, the mind becomes concentrated. And I would imagine, just like me doing the loving kindness meditation, the mind, there's a joy that arises from the concentrated mind. So I forgot what I was talking about, but all right, I'm done.